A good day to you and happy new month. Of course, I'm shooting this video with the presumption that somebody somewhere is going to watch this video. And that brings us to the topic that I want us to talk about today, which is presumption under the law. My name is Wakili Martina Swiga. I'm an advocate of the High Court of Kenya and I practice as such. And welcome to the Court Helicopter News segment of Explainer. Now, presumption of the law is a legal concept that actually exists and is well established. Presumption, we'll begin with the introduction. Presumption is where a fact is assumed to be true. And there are two types of presumptions. There are those which can be challenged by evidence and that which cannot be challenged. For instance, I'll begin with the kind of presumption that cannot be challenged. The kind of presumption that cannot be challenged is the presumption that a child cannot or is not capable of criminal, of committing a crime or of criminal liability. And that is why when a case is made against a child, the court is very keen to only use the initials of the child in order to protect this child's interest once they turn 18. And on the other side of the spectrum, presumption that can be overturned by evidence is the presumption, for instance, the presumption of innocence. Of course, in a criminal trial process under Article 50, which guarantees fair trial, it demands that there must be a presumption of innocence. However, as the trial proceeds and evidence is adduced, this presumption can be overturned. Another presumption is the presumption of sanity. We presume that someone is mentally sound, or there's the presumption that everyone is mentally sound unless there is evidence that challenges the same. I'm going to give you a few examples of things or items that you shouldn't presume. For example, the presumption of marriage. That does not exist. If anyone is lying that to you, it really does not exist. In Kenya, it was existing before the new law came in, which required that every marriage be registered and every marriage should have a marriage certificate, irrespective of the year you conducted your marriage. So the come we stay notion, we've stayed for 7 years, it is not applicable as per the law right now in Kenya. Another dangerous presumption that people tend to do is the presumption that if you agree with someone something, and it's an oral agreement, that they will meet the end of their bargain. That puts people in so many legal problems, because if you've agreed on an item and the person does not play to the end of their bargain, and there's nothing to show that there was an agreement between you two, being written or otherwise, then you stand to lose, and you stand to lose so much. And anything can be binding. You don't have to go before an advocate to write down what you have agreed. Even an agreement written on paper or even on a serviette is legal and binding as long as the contents thereof are legal and as long as it meets the threshold of a contract. So presuming issues just because you've agreed with someone based on good faith or gentleman agreement, it really doesn't go well for many people. The final presumption I'm going to touch on is if you are an accused person in a criminal trial and you have the presumption that every time you go to court, your matter does not proceed to, for instance, it's a hearing and the prosecution is always never ready, or the court seeks an adjournment, and every single time your case is pushed further and further. And you presume that if you just say, okay, Your Honor, it's okay, Your Honor, that they will rule in favor because of how okay you have been throughout the trial. That's the wrong presumption. So I don't want to give a problem and not give a solution. And so if you're an accused person and you're on the stand and you have an issue with how the proceedings are taking place, you have the right to raise your hand and say what it is you need to say. Say that you're not comfortable with the fact that your case keeps being postponed and you want your hearing to happen the shortest time possible, and the court will note that down and it will be part of the record. And that is all for presumption under the law. And I hope that is insightful, short and precise. And keep it locked for more legal insights under Court Helicopter. Thank you. Bye-bye.